Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 220 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey, Seth. Still a little under the weather, but that will not stop me from Nicol Bolas and his shenanigans more of the Spark preview season.
Maybe the spoilers we talk about today will heal you, make you feel better.
or destroy me and everyone and put loyalty counters on stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
And, of course, content creator extraordinaire, Krim. What's going on today, Krim?
Hey, Seth. Morning.
Good morning or afternoon, depending on your time zone. And our plan for today is pretty simple. We have a ton of War of the Spark cards to talk about. So we're going to spend pretty much the entire cast talking about some sweet new war cards and then wrap things up with a little bit of fish mail. So that's the plan for episode 220. Before we jump into it, a reminder that the show today is brought to you by spikesacademy.com, the world's first Magic the Gathering e-learning academy, and they got some really cool courses from Hall of Fame level players, PVDDR, Seth Manfield, Reduke, really awesome players, so you can check them out over at spikesacademy.com, even get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH, and to learn more, check out Spikes_Academy on Twitter. So thank you to them for their support. And with our sponsorship stuff out of the way, I'm going to kick it over to Richard. So Richard, why don't you guide us through a ton of sweet new spoiler cards?
All right. We had, I think, literally a billion spoilers. All of them are good, so we have narrowed it down. So there's so many uncommon planeswalkers, we can't cover all of your favorite characters. So what we've done is we're going to cover the God Eternals, Nicol Bolas, some sweet planeswalkers, and then just random cards we think are good or interesting. But there's like a ton of planeswalkers we're not going to get to, so you can always check them out at mtgpreviews.com. So, starting off, Saheeli Sublime Artificer. 1 hybrid blue-red. So 3 CMC, 5 starting loyalty, legendary planeswalker Saheeli. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 servo. -2, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types.
This is probably, in my opinion, the best of the uncommon planeswalkers. At least in the sense that I think Saheeli might be the one that's most likely to be like a 4 of main deck type card, which a lot of the uncommon planeswalkers are powerful and I like them, but they're more like niche sideboard hate type cards. Saheeli, it's like a young pyromancer. For 1 more mana that's in 2 different colors, you can play it in mono blue or mono red, and it doesn't die to lightning bolt and fatal push. I think this card has a lot of potential. I basically just ignore the -2. Like, I don't even really know what you do with that, but I think you just like play this and cast a bunch of Faithless Lootings and Manamorphoses and make a huge board of creatures on a young pyromancer that doesn't die to fatal push.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I feel like that with most of these new planeswalkers too, like most of the uncommon ones and some of the just rare ones too, but the passives are more what I want than anything else that's on there. It's just they're like glorified enchantments. So, and Saheeli's definitely one of the ones that I really, really like. Also in older formats. And I also think that it is definitely something you could play more than like 2 to 3 of.
So we're talking, what are we talking about? We're talking about modern here. We're talking about legacy. We're talking about standard.
I think standard too. I think that it can show up in modern as a young pyromancer, but I also think you can do it in standard. We have like the memekin deck that's like just looking to cast a bunch of crashed throughs and grow your runaway steamkins. Saheeli would fit there. It could even be a sideboard plan for like a Is It Drakes or Is It Phoenix style deck, where if your opponent's bringing in ways to like plummet your big flyers out of the sky, you can just go wide with a bunch of ground creatures that your opponent's probably not going to be prepared for because they're not going to leave in Cry the Carnarium and stuff against your Is It Drake deck. So I think it has potential in standard and modern. Maybe Legacy as well. Like, I think it's just a really strong card because of that static ability.
Could you see it in mono red in standard?
Maybe. I think it depends on your build. The mono red builds that we see have like 20 creatures normally, and then maybe like 20 spells and 20 lands, like roughly that breakdown. that might be a bit more creature heavy than I'd like for a Saheeli deck, but I think you could still make it work. I think maybe like a mono blue shell with like ops could work as well, where you have a lot of cheap cantrips. The other thing I really like about this card is one of my problems with a lot of the uncommon planeswalkers is they don't really protect themselves. Like, they seem like they just come down and they're gonna die really quickly on a lot of board states. Saheeli, if you wait until like turn 4 or turn 5, it's pretty easy to play it and then protect it with a servo by like opting or casting a lightning strike or whatever to make a chump blocker.
Yeah. So I think Modern and Legacy are a bit ambitious. I don't know. Like, that one extra mana means a lot. These things don't have evasion, and I think you actually need to -2 it to do something useful. I don't know what, like, you could -2 a Relic of Progenitor. I don't know what you would do, right? Like, if you were, no idea what you would do to -2. Standard, I think this is definitely playable. Sideboard, we've seen the, what's the 1/5 thing that makes flyers?
Murmuring
We've
Mystic.
seen that played. Yeah, Murmuring Mystic. We've seen that played. I can see this, like Krim said, mono red, mono blue. Maybe. The thing is, you do get Chain Whirlered into Oblivion, but but Saheeli is pretty strong. And I think if we get good artifact creatures, like if there's a 1-drop, like if we had Beaumont Courier or something like that, imagine changing your Beaumont Courier into a Chain Whirler or something, right? You're like, yeah, cool, right? Like that -2 becomes relevant. So I want to see if we have any incidentally good artifact creatures that you could use. Imagine cloning one of your big beaters in another deck, right? So interesting. We'll see how it goes. Next up, we have another Planeswalker. We have one of Crim's favorite Planeswalkers, Ashiok, Dream Render. 1 hybrid Dimir. So 3 CMC, 5 starting loyalty. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search their libraries. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then exile each opponent's graveyard. That's the -1.
I mean, I guess I'm gonna be really excited about this card for Modern. I was already playing the older one, right, in Modern for a little bit. And I think I really like the fact that this, and okay, first off, let's reiterate. I played the older Ashiok and I played Shadow of Doubt in the main deck, right? So you're telling me I can get a bit of both on one Planeswalker? I'm definitely going to try this. Of course, Shadow of Doubt did draw me a card, but yeah, like the fact that it can kind of like blank your opponent's like fetch lands in Modern. I definitely want to try that and play with that. And the fact that every time I -1, I get to exile each opponent's graveyard is sweet. Graveyard hate is like at an all-time high right now in Modern. So I love this card. And I love how easy it is to cast.
Yeah, I think I'm more excited for this one as a potential Modern card too. In Standard, I'm not really, I guess you fizzle like Mastermind's Acquisition if you run into that is like a searching effect.
Does it stop the sideboard option? No, right?
Yeah,
that is
they're not
actually
searching
true.
the library. They're searching.
So it stops half of Mastermind's Acquisition. And I guess you can like exile Phoenixes or something from the graveyard. But I don't know. It seems like worse Kaya for Standard for the most part, I think. In Modern, though, it is pretty interesting. A lot of decks rely on searching their library for fetch lands. You have expedition maps, you have packs, you have Primeval Titans. There's a lot of searching going on, so it naturally hates on that. And the graveyard hate, it's like 5 Tormod scripts. Like, yes, it's 3 mana to get down initially, but just wiping the graveyard every turn, it can be extremely powerful. I feel like it's a trap to some extent though, because I feel like people are going to see this and be like, I'm going to build a mill deck, and they're going to be very sad when that plan does not actually come to fruition.
Isn't that always how it plays out though, when you go, I'm going to build the mill deck?
Yeah, I think this is a Crim card. I'm not buying it for Modern. I expect Crim to play it and win, but that's just Crim doing Crim things. Like, so you look at it, you're like, wow, that's like 5 Tormod scripts, but it is not instant speed, right? So your opponent can dump stuff in the graveyard and go off while you're sitting there with your Planeswalker that did nothing. So that's a problem. It doesn't Yeah, so it doesn't do that, right? So that's a problem. It's not like Leyline where you slap it down and then it just, nothing can happen anymore. So you do have that problem. Not searching, I guess you could get people, but you're throwing this down on turn 3. They've already got like at least 2 lands up and running. So, I don't know. Like sometimes you're going to get got by this, but I'd rather just play Shadow of Doubt in the original Ashiok, actually. Like, I think they're better than this one, right? Like, one cycles itself, one like is a win con in itself, right? This one is kind of a hoser, but they can get around it. So like, do you really want to waste 3 mana doing this? I don't know.
Yes. To answer that, yes.
Yes. All right. Next up, we have Karn, the Great Creator. 4 generic mana, 5 starting loyalty. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponents control can't be activated. +1 until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness, each equal to its converted mana cost. -2, you may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile, reveal that card, and put it into your hand.
Oh.
This card, man, a lot of these Planeswalkers I'm more excited about for Modern than I am for Standard, honestly. This is another one where in Standard I'm a little bit like, okay, I guess it's fine. You can get like a treasure map or a sorceress spyglass or a mortal sun out of your sideboard, which is some value, but it doesn't seem like it does that much in Standard. In Modern, though, you can hardlock people with Mycosynth Lattice, which is the combo that's getting the most hype. You just turn all your opponent's stuff, including their lands, into artifacts, and then it's the one-sided Stony Silence just keeps your opponent from ever doing anything. Will that be a competitive thing? People are going to try it. People are actually like seriously considering trying it in like Tron style decks because it takes up very few slots. But I think the Stony Silence effect for any color, even at 4 mana, has a lot of potential in older formats. Like, with enough ramp, you can get this down by turn 3, a little slower than Stony Silence, but in Modern, only white has Stony Silence, and a lot of decks go as far as to, like, splash white just for sideboard cards, so that's, I think, the biggest upside to Karn, is you get that Stony Silence effect in any other color, and then you can play, like, one sideboard card and potentially just lock your opponent out of the game.
I'm like, yeah, this is kind of like how I feel about a lot of these Planeswalkers. I'm very excited for them in Modern. And much like Seth said there, this can go in multiple decks. On top of that, there's so many artifacts. Like, there's like an artifact for almost every situation in Modern, right? And the fact that I can like just like go ahead and plus or minus and go ahead and grab one at any point and have it in the main deck, like being up against, let's just say in this situation, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm humoring this out of maybe some control decks too, but, like, minusing and immediately grabbing like a Witchbane orb or like, I don't know, Orbs of Warding against like red deck game 1. Like, I know that of course these are 4 and 5 mana cards, but if like my control deck isn't getting to turns 4 and 5, then I've probably failed, right? So, there's like, you know, Relic of Progenitus, all these like artifacts you can pull and like put in your sideboard that you're already gonna play.
Yeah, it's a double tutor out of your sideboard, and like Krim said, you have so many sideboard hate cards. So you don't have to go crazy like Krim and get a Witchbane orb, but just getting like a Relic of Progenitus or a Pithing Needle or something, like, yeah, you can actually do that all together before you're dead. In Commander, do we even have sideboards? How does it? So it doesn't work on Moto because there is no sideboard. In Paper, can you search?
I actually researched this, and the official ruling on Wish-type cards, including Karn, is it's up to your playgroup. So if your playgroup lets you, you can, but it's 100% up to your playgroup. I assume that if you're playing a tournament, it wouldn't do anything, I believe, because there's no sideboard. But in your kitchen table playgroup, you can go dig through your binder and grab whatever artifact you want.
Yeah, I think Rules Committee needs to update the rules to have a 15-card sideboard. Kind of like, in Best of One on Arena, they give you a sideboard for Masterminds acquisition. Like, now we need to do this. So, because there's many cards that do this nowadays, right? So it's weird that we don't have official rulings. But if they did allow you, you could just make a 15-card toolbox in Commander, and that'd be so good.
How good do you think it is just for its static ability? Like, the doesn't hurt you Stony Silence. Everyone plays Mana Rocks in Commander. Is is this a staple just to lock down your opponent's mana rocks?
So if you were playing a Vince deck, yes. If you're not, you're immediately going to get killed. So it depends on how well you can protect this thing. You pair it with Mycosynth Lattice and the game is over. So people will recognize that. So when you throw this down, you better have shields up and no one can kill you. But I think it is pretty strong if you can keep yourself alive. Next up, we have the Awakening of V2 Ghazi. 3 green, so 5 CMC, instant. Put 9 +1/+1 counters on target land you control. It becomes a legendary 0/0 elemental creature with haste named V2 Ghazi. It's still a land.
Infect? Like that's maybe I'm in a modern headspace right now, but just putting this on an Inkmoth Nexus seems funny.
That's a one-shot kill.
Yeah,
No, you never get to 5 mana though.
Yeah, exactly. It is 5 mana, but you know what?
I think this card can see playing standard. Like you're getting a 9/9 for 5.
Doesn't die to cast.
You're getting doesn't die to cast down.
It has
You're getting a
haste,
9/9 with haste
flash.
for 6. Like if you have an untapped mana, that's gonna eat basically any ground blocker. And we already have decks that are just kind of looking to curve out big dumb green creatures. Like that's your deck, because you're just trying to play like Steel Leaf Champion into whatever Nullhide Ferox. Like it doesn't work well with Nullhide Ferox in specific, but I don't know why this couldn't be the top end of your curve in that style deck. And maybe even it could work in a Wilderness Reclamation like control shell. A 9/9 flash is not a horrible control finisher if you're like doing your thing and then untapping your lands and cast this during your opponent's turn.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about it. Temur Reclamation, stuff like that. You could definitely be playing it there. And as I said, it doesn't die to cast down, which is huge. So that's gotta be like, you know, that's going to be stretching a lot of decks' answers thin with like, you know, if they're using Mortifies, Assassin's Trophies, Contempts, and stuff like that.
But is it big enough? It's a 5 mana 9/9 vanilla, basically, right? Is that good enough? So it has haste. So if you have 5 mana, it does nothing because you have to tap your land. But if you have 6 mana, you can slam in there with a 9/9 haste. You can proliferate it. I don't know. Doubling season for the lulz. I don't know. But 5 mana 9/9 dies to removal. Is that good enough? Or does it need to be even bigger? like how big does it need to be when it's just a dumb beater?
9/9
There's
flash.
also risk too that you kind of end up down a land too, which is an issue. But the flash is a big upside.
Yeah,
that's instant speed. You can snapcaster it.
Yeah. Hey,
although you got to put the counters on the same land, unfortunately.
Sultai Reclamation exists in Modern. I know that. I played against it.
So does Fatal Push.
Yep.
Well, what happens with the creature land? So you do
can
this.
Still activate it.
When you activate it, it overrides the 0/0 status. Like if I put this on a Raging Ravine.
Yeah, then it becomes an
Yes.
11 powered thing, and then you swing and you add another counter on it. Or like you put on Creeping Tar Pit, it's an unblockable.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Creeping Tar Pit, right?
Yeah.
That could work. I mean, I think it's too expensive for Infect, though. Like, it's hilarious that you can one-shot someone with Inkmoth Nexus, but Infect, don't they top out at, like, 2 mana?
Yeah.
They don't even get anywhere close to 5 mana.
They get no lands, so I don't know. I don't know. You can pretend you're a ramp deck and then just randomly kill people with the Inkmoth Nexus.
Actually, that is something I would be afraid of happening in Commander, though. I can't imagine people just janking people out. In basically any deck, you can just play that on Inkmoth and one-shot someone out of nowhere in Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in Commander, you're going to get strip mined, so.
I always forget. How could I ever, actually?
Finale of Promise. It's a mythic rare X red sorcery. You may cast up to 1 target instant card and up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana costs. If a card cast may be put in your graveyard, exile it. If X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice. You may choose new targets for the copies.
Phoenix.
10 is a lot.
Is it?
I don't know. I mean, I guess not in Commander.
Yeah, that's right, Seth. Cage Sun, Gauntlet of Power.
I mean, it seems decent. It does, like Crib said, it does get Phoenix back basically all by itself if you have a cheap instant sorcery in the graveyard. Just like this, Faithless Looting, opt, here comes the Phoenixes. Like, that's a thing that could happen. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this one as far as how good it is.
I mean, think about this. So you can go Cruel Ultimatum, right? And clearly we've already got the mana to like go to Cruel Ultimatum. And then you cast this. Imagine that. Do it for 10. That's 2 Cruel Ultimatums.
Well, that's 3 Cruel Ultimatums. Because you copy each spell twice, right?
Look
so you
at
get
that.
1 Cruel Ultimatum, you get 2 additional ones, and you get whatever instant you want to cast while you're at it. How about 3 Factor Fictions or something?
Yeah,
right?
why not? And some
Why
Cruel
not?
Ultimatums on top of it.
It's kind of sweet with like Brass's Bounty too in standard, like Apex of Power. We have some powerful, expensive stuff. If you can ramp into it, it's probably going to win you the game.
I mean, I think we're winning, right? If we're doing this for like 10.
It should get there.
Other than that,
Okay, can we play this in a serious manner though? Like, can we, I don't know, in Jund cast this for 3 and Thoughtseize Lightning Bolt, or like, you know, is there any way you could actually use this as like a legitimate card?
I think the answer there is like maybe Phoenix decks in Modern can use it as or in Standard. Like, I think that's the most likely home. You have to have a lot of spells, and it does open you up to Graveyard Hate, but I guess you already are if you're playing Phoenix.
Yeah.
But it does seem good enough. Just like turn 1 Faithless Looting, discard a Lightning Bolt or whatever. Turn 3, this guarantees that you're not only getting back your Phoenixes, but reusing your stuff from the graveyard. So maybe the downside is like if they lock your graveyard, this card does nothing. So you're playing another card that like is already soft to what your deck is soft to. So I don't know if that'll be a issue, but I think that's the most likely home as far as tier decks.
yeah.
The pitch is to Faithless Looting. It's fine.
You can even cast Faithless Looting, though.
All right, next up, we have Enter the God Eternals, 2 blue, blue, black. So 5 CMC, sorcery, it's a rare. Enter the God Eternals deals 4 damage to target creature, and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, amass 4.
Sweet. I think this card is super sweet. I think it'd be too broken if it were 4 mana, but like, I don't know. I personally love this card, and I'm going to try it in Standard. I want to try that with like, you know, maybe like the God Eternal Kefnet, and whatnot, like some kind of like tap out blue black X mid-range deck. I mean, Grixis is already looking pretty sweet right now in Standard if you do Grixis mid-range. Even Sultai mid-range if you want to, and it's a removal. It does just so many things.
Yeah, it seems like, to me, this card also seems pretty insane. I feel like the best Amass cards are the cards that you don't play in an Amass deck. Like, I think it's like a 1 or 2 of in some sort of mid-range or control deck. It's a 4 for 5 that deals 4, so it's probably going to kill most things, and it gains you 4 life, and it incidentally helps you like flip your Search for Azcanta or whatever if you want cards in your graveyard for some reason. That feels like a really powerful, like almost Ravenous Chupacabra like style card that could be very strong in Standard.
Yeah. And the milling helps you kill the gods, which we're about to talk about, because they tuck 3 deep. It's like, I don't know, like a 6 for 1 or something. Like, you're doing like a million things here. You're dealing damage, you're getting a creature, you're gaining life, you're milling, right? So it does a ton of things. The question is, the 5-drop slot is so full of stuff. Is it good enough? Like, would you play this or a Lyra? Would you play this or like a Vivian Reed? Would you play this or Tulsimer? Like, I don't know. You have like so many options. So we'll see how it goes. But it does look good. It is like a lot of text on one card.
The life gain is actually really helpful too. Like if you're playing a slower control deck, just that, imagine against like any of the aggro decks in the format, you're killing their creature, you're gaining 4 life, and you're making a 4/4 that's gonna probably block any creature in the mono red or mono white deck. Like if you live long enough to cast this, it feels like it just beats aggro essentially all by itself if you're playing mid-range or control.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, what doesn't it do? I love it. But Richard, you are right though. It is coming down at the 5 slot, and there's a lot there. But
Will you play this over to Fairy?
Well, why don't we play them together? Just load up with more 5s.
5-drop tribal incoming.
That's his curve. It's like 30 lands and all 5 drops.
I genuinely think though this could be played out of like a tap out control deck, or like out of Grixis specifically.
Yeah. You can get it back with Promise, the finale of Promise or whatever.
My thing is just copying it with Kefnet. It's 2 less. It's 3 mana.
Yep. All right. Have we talked about Feather? We haven't talked about Feather yet, have we?
I don't think we talked about Feather.
Let's talk about Feather the Redeemed. Red, white. So 3 CMC, legendary creature Angel, a rare 3/4 flying. When you cast an instant or sorcery that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step.
I mean, it's another really good angel for like the Boros Angel curve. One of the problems with Boros Angels is their angel curve is just so top heavy. So even just a 3 mana 3/4 angel is pretty relevant for whatever Mardu Angels, Boros Angels. The ability, I love it. It's really fun. I expect that we'll probably build an against the odds deck around it, but I would be surprised if competitive standard decks were actually built around Feather's ability at this point. Maybe if like Heroic returns in a future set, it'll change the equation. It seems like an awesome build around Commander though. This card has had major financial impacts with Commander cards being bought out from people building Feather the Redeemed Commander decks.
Like, what can you actually do with this like bouncing? Like, what's a good spell to target Feather with?
It seems like Aurelia's Fury is one of the big ones that people are kind of going crazy with.
Didn't they go crazy over that once before?
There was a time when that card was like $50, and then no one ever played it. Pump spells? You could do pump spells. I don't know, things that draw you cards.
Heroic, what is it? Mighty Heroic Leap?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, it doesn't die to cast down.
I mean, it is a 3 mana 3/4 flying. It is just actually pretty solid in stats.
Yeah.
By itself.
And the legendary is huge because like you just add another threat that, like an Esper deck can't cast down, stuff like that. So.
All right. Next up, we have Ilharg the Razeboar.
Oh, yeah.
3 red, 6/6 legendary creature, Boar God, mythic. Trample. When Ilharg attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. When Ilharg dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top.
This card's so sweet.
Yeah. It does a lot of things that I mean, it's a lot of fun. I think this is a very powerful card. I know there's a lot of like memes I want to do with it in modern, but mostly like in standard right now, like it's just a very good 5-drop. I mean, like the only time that it's not that great is like if you're empty handed, but even then, like it's still a 5 mana 6/6 with trample. So, I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, I think it seems like just based on stats, it's solid. And there's also some really sweet tricks you could do with it. In standard, Gishath, I think, is the dinosaur that when it deals damage, you get to like reveal that many cards and put all the dinosaurs into play. That's pretty sweet, especially if you can like haste this in with Rhythm of the Wild or something. And then in modern or / commander potentially, Medomia the Ageless, infinite turn combo. It's a 4/4 flyer for 6 that when it deals combat damage, you get to take an extra turn, but then it can't attack during extra turns. But since it's going into play attacking, you're not technically attacking, so that just gives you infinite turns. And the other one that's really cool that I expect to be sweet in Commander is the original Rakdos. Do you know what that does, Richard? That seems like a Commander card you would know.
No, what does the original Rakdos do?
Rakdos the Defiler, 2 double black, double red, 7/6 flying trample. When it attacks, you have to sacrifice half of your non-demon permanents, rounded up. But when it deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices half of their non-demon permanents, rounded up. So since you're never attacking, you never have to sacrifice anything, but you can just haste this in and make your opponent sacrifice literally half of their permanents. Pretty sweet.
Value.
So standard wise, I don't know what to do with it. It's the 5 mana 6/6 that dies immediately. If it somehow lives, the ability to dash your creatures in, so have it attack and go back to your hand, is actually very powerful. The problem is Ilharg stays on the battlefield, so Ilharg's gonna die. So we saw before when we had the dash mechanic, what you would do is just keep dashing in your creatures. Krim is sitting across the table with Kaya's Wraths and stuff like that. He's really sad because it's sorcery speed. And then you finish him off like that, right? But Ilharg stays on the battlefield, so Krim can still Kaya's Wrath and remove Ilharg, even though the dashed creature sits there. But you can reuse, it's like a Panharmonicon in a sense. You get to reuse all your ETBs by repeatedly slamming them. But I don't know that it's good enough. It's 5 mana 6/6. I think it'll be more fun in Commander with all the combos Seth was talking about. Like 5 mana 6/6 is not good. We have a 5 mana 9/9. Creatures are quite big nowadays, so I don't know that 5 mana 6/6 trample cuts it. You really need to take advantage of that dashing ability.
I mean,
what do you guys think of the kill ability though?
But Richard, what about the 6/6 swinging? And then putting in a Carnage Tyrant, and then returning the Carnage Tyrant, because you can never, ever board wipe that Carnage Tyrant while this is here.
That's good, but then you're gonna board wipe the Ilharg, and then you
play your 6th land, and then you play Carnage Tyrant, and it's like, oh god, I can't deal with it anymore.
What do you guys think about the new God mechanic, where you put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top?
The gods are weird. They're weird on 2 levels. First off, these are the first gods that you don't need any condition. They just come down and they are gods as they are, which is unique. They're more powerful that way, but I don't know if I like that it strayed away from needing to have a condition met, which is like the traditional god mechanic. As far as the protection mechanic, I think it's the weakest protection mechanic we've seen, most likely. It's nice that it dodges exile. It's kind of rough that you have to skip a draw step to get your god back. I guess in Commander, it's kind of cool that it's a really risky way to get around the Commander tax. If your Commander is really expensive, you could just like put it in your deck and hope that no one mills you or Field of Ruins you, and you get to cast it without the Commander tax. So, I mean, I don't know. It's fine, but not really exciting to me.
I think it's just, I love it because it dodges exile. So, anything that can like get around the contempt thing, cause like, contempt and then be done with it, right? But now they continuously come back. On top of that, slower decks without win conditions can definitely play this.
Yeah, I don't like this new mechanic because it's like card disadvantage. Like, I don't know, right? Like, it's costing you a card, so you're not saving anything, as opposed to like the indestructible nature of the old gods. So this is like your opponent Teferi tucked it, except didn't use a Teferi to, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel good, right? It's like, it's effectively dead. Like 3 turns in Magic is a long time, right? And you got to respend your mana, and you got to use a card for it. So I feel like they're not really indestructible or anything like that, right? Like, they pretty much die. If it's like a real haymaker, you're getting it back in 3 turns, but it's almost the same as if it just died, right? Like, if you have 4 copies of a card in your deck, you're like, there's some percentage chance it's near the top. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they don't feel godlike to me. They clearly got smacked by Nicol Bolas, and they're just like regular legendary creatures.
On the other hand, though, it doesn't apply to Ilhrog in specific, but the other gods have sweet enter the battlefield abilities. So you do get like some sort of upside that you get to reuse the enter the battlefield ability, which you wouldn't get with the other forms of protection, like indestructibility or whatever. So I do like that aspect of it. Like, that is a fringe benefit to this sort of protection, but skipping your draw step is a little bit rough, and having to respend the mana can be rough. Plus, you just, like, there's a lot of things that seem to get rid of them permanently. Like, from Field of Ruin, forcing you to shuffle, to all these random Mill 4 effects that we're seeing in the set. So it doesn't seem like it's that likely you're going to even get your god again if your opponent doesn't want you to.
Ashiok. Oh, who said that? That's so weird.
All right. Now we're going to go to... So Ilhargu's a god. Here are the gods that we most recently saw on Amonkhet. So we have God Eternal Bantu. 3 black, 5 CMC, 5/6 Menace. When Bantu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. When Bantu dies or is put into exile from the graveyard or from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library third from the top.
I mean, this one actually gets around the whole you don't really draw, you skip a draw step, right? Because now you can sack your lands, which means you can bring it in and play it with like World Reshaper or whatever that green merfolk is. Yep. And I mean, there's a lot of things you could do with this, I think. And this one is kind of a sleeper, I think. I think this will actually be pretty decent.
Yeah, I think the Bantu's actually pretty good. I think it does most likely need to be played in a specific deck that actually wants to sacrifice stuff. Maybe, I guess, it could be okay if you just, like, get to the late game and have a ton of extra lands that you don't need. But I feel like if you build around it with, like, afterlife creatures, cruel celebrant, anything that wants to be sacrificed, or stuff that comes back from the graveyard, this seems like it's really powerful, because the base stats are good, and it seems pretty easy to build a deck where this is, like, a creature that's fine on its own that also like draws you 5 cards or something almost for free if you're sacrificing the right stuff, or even for value when it comes into play.
What about Mardu Aristocrats, right? Like, people were playing around with that at the beginning of Ravnica Allegiances, and now you kind of have some draw, and you know, like, of course Judith can ping people down in Standard, and you'll have, like you said, afterlife creatures and tokens and whatnot.
Yeah, and if you can recur anything, there's a bunch of cards where you can just return everything to the battlefield that died this turn. Like, cha-ching, you cash in, sack your whole board, hope your spell doesn't get countered, and then draw a bunch of spells and return everything back. So I think Bantu will have a lot of fun in Commander. Kind of sucks that's she's just a 5/6 menace. Should at least like have, I don't know, something else. It's a weak body, but you're just using Bantu. Like, Seth, isn't this your dream card? Like, something in the command zone that's basically a card draw spell?
I definitely plan on playing a lot of Bantus in Commander. Yeah, like, it seems really easy to just always have a full hand if this is your commander.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have God Eternal Ronus. 3 green, 5/5, Death Touch. When God Eternal Ronus enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. When Ronus dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it in its owner's library third from the top.
This is the god I'm most scared of in Standard. The doubling of power seems like it should be good at closing out games on turn 5 pretty well. We already have decks that just feel like natural homes, like Gruul midrange, because what it really wants, what Ronus really wants, is creatures with some form of evasion. So in a deck like Gruul, you already have, like, Gruul Spellbreaker with Trample. You already have Rekindling Phoenixes and Skargan Hellkites. You can potentially play, like, Galta that has Trample. And then you play this and you double the power on all that, and it just closes out the game. And, like, your Galta is a 24 power Trampler. Like, how do you not die to that? So I think this god, in the right decks, like the Green Stompy / Green X mid-range Stompy decks, seems like a really powerful addition to those decks.
Yeah, I agree. That's the first thing I was thinking of, just Gruul. Can't really see it anywhere else, but definitely with Gruul.
So, yeah, you know, Carnage Tyrant? Carnage Tyrant just got a lot bigger.
Yeah.
This card is so good.
It's time to just play 6 mana Kaya. Hope I don't die before I untap.
Oh, this card is so good. Like, just like a Steel Leaf champion, just like a single Steel Leaf champion becomes a 10-4. Like, that's like half your life total, right? Assuming you have like no board, nothing. You can imagine go wide decks with this. Like, there's so much you can do. Commander, you can go nuts if you have like Xenagos with this thing. Like, just gets out of control so fast, right? It's better than an Overrun, in my opinion. And respectable body on its own. I think this will be the nuts. And I want to make like a 50-50 and smash someone's face in. Like, oh, this is such a Timmy card.
Do you like it as a commander, or just to like play it in the 99 of like Xenagos or whatever?
I fear it in the sense that everyone sees the overrun coming, so you're gonna die, right? Like the minute you have any legitimate looking board, everyone's like, so you cast Ronus and then kill everyone, huh? So I don't know about that. It would be sweet if you could hide it, but the fact that everyone knows that overrun is coming is a little scary. But I think it's pretty good. I think as part of the 99, I think in a Xenagos deck, it'd be pretty good. All the green card draw spells that are based off the power of a creature got way better with God Eternal Ronus. So yeah, I'm excited for it. Next up, we have God Eternal Kefnet. 2 blue, 4/5. Mythic, flying. You may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery this way, copy that card and you may cast the copy. That copy costs 2 less to cast. When Kefnet dies, put it third from the top.
Love it. Love it.
Miracles.
This card is so sweet. Like, what Kefnet was arguably the worst god last time around. So they had to boost him this time, and I like it. I like it a lot. As I mentioned earlier, you have Enter the God Eternals. I know there are. I don't know if I should say it because then it makes people aware of it, but yeah, people are talking about it online with like Nexus of Fate, and yes, I hate Nexus of Fate, but like there's tons of things you could do with this, and like in a turns deck, maybe in Modern, you could try to do it there, and of course. This card in Standard has tons of like just applications in that. If I'm able to like just get a Chemister's Insight or anything like that, I definitely don't hate it.
You know what's dumb? It doesn't even cost you the card. Like you get a copy, so you get to draw the actual card and then cast another one that's cheaper. It is so ridiculous. And now when you opt and things on your opponent's turn, you basically get a free spell if your deck is full of spells. So, pretty overpowered.
Blue-red,
yeah.
I think this is blue-red, some sort of like counter burn or spell slinger deck. I think the only weird part of God Eternal Kefnet is it's a little weird with counter spells and reactive spells. Like, that's why I think like mono blue tempo, like even though they have a lot of spells, they're not spells that you actually really want to copy because hitting a counter spell on your upkeep like isn't going to do anything. So I feel like you want to play this in some sort of almost like a wizard style deck where you have an aggressive clock and you double up your wizard's lightnings and your card draw spells. I feel like that's more of the shell, or some sort of deck that's more of a control deck that isn't as reliant on counter spells, but definitely one of the sweeter. I think this might be my favorite god from the set. It just seems really fun to build around. It also seems really fun in Commander too.
Oh yeah, this and top.
Oh no. Well, at least it's not demons.
Demon zombie god. There we go. That's what I needed.
I mean, just bust out the portents and the ops and like, oh, this is why miracles? Why?
This looks so
okay.
fun.
Next up, we have Niv Mizzet Reborn. Waberg. So one of each color. White, blue, black, red, green. 6/6 legendary creature, dragon avatar, flying. When Niv Mizzet enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Well,
5 mana 6/6. In the perfect world, it's a draw 10.
I mean, the good news, it is a dragon. So you have like Dragon's Horde in standard, you have Sarkin, you have ways to fix the mana and ramp into it.
Chromatic Lantern.
And I think like Chromatic Lantern, and I think when you consider it's a 5 mana 6/6, which is already like Doom Whisperer stats, a very powerful evasive creature, I think people are going to get too caught up in like the magical Christmas land. As weird as it sounds coming from me, like I don't think you build your deck to try to draw 10 cards. I think if you hit it like 2 cards with this, that's a very powerful effect on a 6/6 flyer that draws you 2 cards when it enters the battlefield, and some sort of like card selection involved as you're looking through your top 10. So I feel like maybe 5-color dragons has a chance in standard. The only weird thing is this even good in Commander? I guess if you want to build like Guild Tribal and try to draw 10 with it, maybe it's fine, but it seems like it's pretty bad compared to other 5-color dragon commanders.
Okay, how many cards do you need to draw on average for you to say this is a good card?
1.
In Standard or Commander?
If it's Seth, 1.
Both. Let's say both. Because realistically, no one's drawing 10. Okay, if you draw 10, congratulations, you've manipulated your library, and you probably could have done it in a way to win the game outright. But like if I draw like say 2 cards off this or 3 cards off of this, is that good enough?
Oh yeah.
Yes, I think if you draw people played Cloud Blazer. And it was a 2/2 for 5 that drew 2 cards.
Yeah, but Cloud Blazer didn't cost 5 different colors of mana to cast.
Easy.
I mean, yeah, it
EDH.
limits the decks that you can put it in. That's definitely true. But I think if you hit 2 cards with it, that's more than a fine deal.
Like, let's say I play a 2-color deck with Chromatic Lantern for some reason, right? Would you play this in there as a, I'm going to draw 1 card, or let's say I'm playing a 3-color deck, so I could draw 2 to 3 cards. You would definitely slot this in, right?
If you're already playing 5 colors, then yeah.
No, you're playing like 2, 3 colors. Because like no one can realistically play 5 colors, like say in Standard. You can't play like 5 colors and actually play like an even split of all the guilds. Like there's no way you're casting anything, right?
Okay, so I guess I'd be like, if you're already playing 5-color mana base.
Yeah,
if your deck is already built to make the mana work fine, then I think the answer is yes. If you're like trying to splash 2 additional colors just so you can cast Niv, then I don't know. Like that sounds a little bit sketchy to me to try to like splash colors for it. But if you're already playing Chromatic Lantern and playing like Chromatic Black or something where you already have access to the mana to cast Niv, then I think a 2 to 3 color deck, as far as cards you can hit, is definitely a good deal.
Isn't there some land in Standard that like filters 5 colorless into 1 of each color?
It was an Amonkhet.
I think it rotated.
the
There
indestructible
was,
one, right?
but it's gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I if you can draw 2 cards, this card is worth. But for me, I think this is mostly just EDH.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's good in EDH. Like if you're building a Ravnica themed deck, then all right, go for it, right? But other than that, I don't know that you can get enough color pairs in your deck to make it good. And I don't really want to run that many. Well, when we run all the gold cards, like only some of them are good.
Like, well, so example, you get like Crosis. You can grab other like the older elder dragons, right?
Yeah, I guess
like
that's true.
Treva and Crosis and whatnot, Darigaz. Either,
there's already really good 5-color dragon commanders though.
but they don't draw you a card for each guild.
I mean, people will probably try it, but
All right. Let's skip to the end game here. We finally have Nicol Bolas. Nicol Bolas, Dragon God.
Yeah.
Blue, black, red. So 5 CMC Grixis. 4 starting loyalty. Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, has all loyalty abilities of all other planeswalkers on the battlefield. +1. You draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. -3. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. -8. Each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game.
This is just always going to be the best planeswalker on the field, right?
Well, not necessarily.
I mean, it's so good. Like, I get it, Teferi can come down and tuck, but like, if Nicol Bolas is like going second, Nicol Bolas comes down after Teferi, it's like, well, I tuck Teferi then. It's like, okay, sure. And that +1 ability is always going to be good. Like you draw a card, each opponent exiles a card from their hand or permanent they control. What? What? Dude, oh my god, yes. That's so good. I'm not even
discard, exiles.
Yeah, like and it's a permanent they control. So let's say we get them like hellbent, they're out of cards, and they have no cards in hand. Like it's like, okay, well I guess you gotta start exiling a land, right? And I'll draw a card. Why not?
I mean, yeah, it's basically like disinformation campaign. I think is like a pretty good comparison. Like how you're drawing a card and putting your opponent down a card. And it has a hero downfall attached to it, and it can just win the game. I think that Nicol Bolas is probably the best Planeswalker in the set. Like, it is restrictive as far as casting costs, so you've got to be Grixis or 4 or 5 colors to play it. But I think even ignoring the really fun text of stealing all the other Planeswalkers' abilities, even if there's no other Planeswalkers on the battlefield, this is a super powerful 5-mana Planeswalker. And then you can do cool tricks, like using Dovin's ability to get the loyalty up to ultimate quicker, or like you can go infinite with Jace Cunning Castaway and Oath of Teferi, making a ton of Nicol Bolas's. So there's some really cool things you could do that way, which is fun as well. But I think just as a finisher in Grixis control, curving M19 Nicol Bolas into this, that's a lot of Nicol Bolas value.
Yeah, like, well,
all right, here is the true question. I actually don't think this is the best Planeswalker.
So what?
I'm going to test Krim right here. Would you play Nicol Bolas or would you play Teferi?
No comment. Because
he looks impressive, but I'm like,
okay, hold on though.
Teferi's pretty good, man. Like
2 different decks, though. I mean, I would say,
yeah, that's true, right?
Like
that's
2 different decks.
Colors.
This would now give Grixis like an option, like a Teferi power, like level of power at 5, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I obviously I would love like don't question it, because you know I sat there and thought about it. Can I play them together, right? But realistically, the answer is no. But like separately in a Grixis deck, whether it's the tap out Grixis or maybe for some odd reason there's a Grixis control deck, but until you can deal with enchantments, you're most likely Grixis midrange. So this gives you that same power level that you would get from Teferi, but now you have it in Grixis and you're doing work. Like this is going to continue to eat at your control opponent's hand. This is just that +1. Yeah, you're right. If you ignore the static ability, that +1 is bonkers. That minus is bonkers. This is just an absurdly powerful card.
Yeah, I don't know if it's better than Teferi, but I think it's the best Planeswalker in the set, and I think people will build decks around it. Like, this is the reason to play, like, Grixis Control in Standard now.
Yeah.
I think it's actually just as good as old Nicol Bolas, the creature. The 4/4 flying that discards. Like, it's good. You'll play it if you're playing in these colors. But I don't think it's going to be Teferi where like you're just going to warp your deck to play Teferi and everyone will play it and you'll see it all over the place. I think it'll just have a home in Grixis. I think this mana cost is actually very difficult. Like what this means is you need triple black, a blue and a red, and you can't be sharing colors, right? Like for example, you can't use a Watery Grave as your black and your blue. Right, so you actually have to have like 5 distinct mana colors, which is way more difficult. Like you know how many times you like can't cast Cryptic Command? Like this is way worse than that, right? So I think it is restrictive. So I think Grixis will play it, but I expect that it won't be as ubiquitous as we've seen other Planeswalkers in the past, like Teferis, Karns, and I'm even going to say that another Planeswalker in this set will see way more standard play than Nicol Bolas.
You mean Liliana?
I don't know. Even one of the uncommon ones. We'll see more actual play than Nicol Bolas.
This
that might be true.
Depends if you win the next Mythic Invitational or not using Nicol Bolas.
So there's a challenge.
It might be true just because you can fit those other ones in a lot more decks.
Yeah.
So I think you might be right. I think like if you're playing Grixis controller midrange, like a very high percentage of those decks are going to play the new Nicol Bolas. But as far as play in the format altogether, You're right. It's probably some monocolored or one of the random hybrid planeswalkers that everyone's going to put in their sideboard or something.
Yeah, like
The
this.
good news is Nicol Bolas does kill Teferi. Like, just -3 amount of existence.
Like that's why I like Nicol Bolas. Like, I mean, yeah, he won't be like, played as much as, let's just say, like a Liliana or Karn or something. But Nicol Bolas coming out of the deck that it is going to be played in will be the best card. I think it will be one of the best cards in that deck. So, like, if I see the Grixis color mana base, I'm definitely sweating Nicol Bolas for sure. Like,
Oh yeah. All right. Next up, we have Deliver Unto Evil, 2 and a black. Choose up to 4 target cards in your graveyard. If you control a Bolas Planeswalker, return those cards to your hand. Otherwise, an opponent chooses 2 of them. Leave the chosen in your graveyard. Put the rest in your hand. Exile Deliver Unto Evil.
beautiful.
Yeah.
3
It's like
mana,
a
draw
reverse
4.
gift ungiven.
Or
Should be instant, but all right. I'll
yeah,
accept.
It is not gifts, okay? Like, you can't tutor these cards. It's like if you had Buried Alive attached to this, then we're talking.
I think it's really good. I mean, even if you're only getting 2 cards, it's still pretty decent value for 3 mana. And if you get 4 cards, it's insane value. So, and the art is so good.
Yeah,
Seth
the
McKinnon
art.
just does the best art. It's
This
so,
art is
so
crazy.
It's
good.
gorgeous. I love how the Planeswalkers are drawn.
I love how it's not like the generic Magic art that we usually get, right? But would you play this? Is this good?
I think
Okay, if you have Nicol Bolas, clearly it's good, okay? But let's say you don't have Nicol Bolas. Your opponent gives you like your 2 fetch lands and you're like, cool story, bro. Divination. Like, I don't know. Like, is it really playable?
I think it depends on the deck. Like, if you can stock 4 good cards in your graveyard, then it's probably pretty good. If you are having to pick fetch lands, then it's not as good or exciting. And in standard, we already have like Find Finality, which gets back for 2 mana the 2 creatures that you choose, which might just be better. Like, that's where you could see this card being played, is in a similar way to Find Finality. But is it better than Find Finality in a deck like Golgari? It might not be.
I mean, it's not like I'm casting this on turn 3 unless I'm firing off like duress, like double duress, and then getting 1 duress back. So I don't know. I mean, you're not casting this on 3. I don't know how good it will be in standard. So I see this as more of something maybe in like EDH, but like standard now.
Yeah. And this is why I always read my piles while playing Commander. This one, you choose. You choose the ones in the graveyard, and the other ones go to the hand. All right. Last card we want to talk about. Nicol Bolas has been channeling this spell since like the beginning of time, and it's a good one. The Elder Spell. Black, sorcery rare. Destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Choose a planeswalker you control. Put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way.
This is amazing. It's so flavorful for what an Elder Spell is, and with what Nicol Bolas is trying to do. But destroying any number of planeswalkers, oh, I don't have to play Star of Extinction anymore. Oh, this is great. And then on top of that, I get to like ult, and like this could be paired with Teferi or with Nicol Bolas or whatever, and then we can get to that emblem even faster.
Yeah. This card is very good. I'm almost surprised that they printed it, because they are printing it in a set with so many planeswalkers, and this is just like 2 mana Plague Wind for your opponent's planeswalkers, which it seems like it just shuts down an entire archetype. And you can definitely do cool things by putting counters on your stuff. There are some planeswalkers where, like Nicol Bolas, for example, like if you kill 2 planeswalkers, you immediately get to ultimate, and you probably just like win the game because you killed all your opponent's planeswalkers, so the ultimate's going to be lethal. And you could do that with some other planeswalkers as well, like Angrath, the new Jace, Ral. If you can hit 2 planeswalkers with it, it jumps you up to ultimate. And the other thing is, that I think maybe maybe is not maybe going to be overlooked is you can use this in your Planeswalker deck just as a way to get one of your Planeswalkers up to Ultimate quicker and potentially win the game. Like, you can destroy your own Planeswalkers if getting the loyalty on one Planeswalker is worth it. So, yeah, this card feels very strong, especially in a standard where we have so many Planeswalkers running around.
Would you mainboard it? Because, like, you gotta...
Yes.
This is still a card, though, that only hits a Planeswalker.
I mean, I think it depends on what the meta looks like. Would I mainboard it in our current standard format? No. Will War of the Spark standard be different? It might be. Like, if every deck is running Planeswalkers because we have so many in the set, then I think it's in the conversation for main deck, but I would not main deck it in our literal current standard format right now, because you're not going to hit anything against, like, several of the top tier decks.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like, if like mono blue stays the way it is, or like mono red, it's like, cool, I have this 2 mana, I essentially just skipped a draw, right? So I'm hoping that like though this card is absurdly powerful, I think it may be a sideboard card.
Yeah. That's definitely possible depending on the meta.
Yeah. So this card is really, it's like 2 mana, kill a Planeswalker. This is important because your opponent say to fairies on the play, you can Elder Spell, they negate, you negate back, and then it's good to go. So being 2 mana is like a huge upside as opposed to the other play pattern where they to fairy, you Vraska's Contempt, they counter, and you're sad. It also fixes the play pattern of your opponent has a ticking Teferi, a ticking Kaya, you've got nothing. You top deck Elder Spell, and suddenly you fix the board state. So we have a catch-up mechanic. And like Seth said, you can murder your own Planeswalkers, which normally you don't want to do. But remember, we are in uncommon Planeswalker territory where, say you have an Ashiok, you've minused a couple times. Now it's just sitting there doing kind of nothing. You can eat Ashiok to pump your Nicol Bolas or
I would never.
your Liliana or whatever, right? So it just does so much. And Krim's point is valid. It doesn't hit creatures, so it's probably sideboard material depending on what the meta looks like. But when you cast this, I am pretty sure it will always feel really good when you cast this spell.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. It will be a very powerful spell when you cast it. It's just not.
And I'm waiting for Planeswalker Week on Commander Clash. I call black. Gonna murder like 8 Planeswalkers at once with the Elder Spell. No problemo.
Planeswalker Week, like, yeah, like if I'm not playing black, I'm not playing. Like,
all right. All right. Last card I'm gonna sneak in because I'm a Timmy and we gotta talk about this. Parhelion 2.
Oh, come on.
6 white 5/5. It's a legendary artifact vehicle. Flying. First strike vigilance. When it attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. Crew 4.
Well,
it's a Star Destroyer, guys.
I think I saw it somewhere online. I forgot they dubbed it the name of like Geist of Saint Aircraft or something like that.
That's 13 power attacking.
It's so expensive in every possible way.
You could get it with Karn too out of your sideboard.
You could just cheat it into play.
Yeah, but even if you cheated into play, then you need 4 power of creatures. Like, because that's what I heard everyone say. Like, oh, you like tinker this out or you trash for treasure in it, but then you need 4 power of creatures to even do anything with it.
They should have made it like Heart of
Star
Kirin.
Destroyer.
Like a Planeswalker through it.
It's a fly. I don't even know what it is. It's like a flying building. Okay, like angels are flying out of it. They're killing you, and then the angels can then crew it on other turns. Imagine if you somehow flashed in Ronus on top of this.
Sure.
Do you think you'd even play this in Commander, where everyone has stuff to kill artifacts? Like, can you even play this in Commander?
You could
play anything in Commander, Seth. You could play anything.
You're gonna mock it now, but when I cast it, you're gonna be like, guys, you gotta kill him. He has a Parhelion 2 out. Like, what are we gonna do?
Why do I have a cast down in Commander? I don't know, but I can't cast it down.
It has vigilance, so you can attack with it, and then the new angels that come out can crew it to block. It's so good. I'm just happy it's a Star Destroyer. Like, look at this thing. Like, what is the story here?
It is
There's like
flavorful.
battleships on Ravnica. Like, what is happening? And why does this totally kill the Weatherlight? Like, what is going on?
I forgot about Weatherlight. That's just how much that card has been a factor.
This is like, we're going to war. It is serious. Bring in the ships. Bring in the big guns. Give me the Death Star next. Give me like the 20 mana, like 30 artifacts.
That's Parhelion 3, dude. It's Parhelion 3.
we gotta wait for the engineers to upgrade it.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up our previews we're going to talk about. There are a ton more, so be sure to check out the site. Seth has daily videos talking about all of them. So yeah, let's move on to fish mail real quick. We just have a couple fish mail since we're running long. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. Handtree Game. Hi Seth, big fan. How do you maintain your crazy level of enthusiasm for the game? I've lost much of my passion since the PPTQ system is abolished. How do you do it day in and day out at the level of excitement you show?
Well, I think it's easier when you don't care about PPTQs and Pro Tours. When you just want to like make crazy janky things happen and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. There's always something new that I haven't done yet. And there's so many formats. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I get bored of standard sometimes, but then there's modern. And then by the time I get bored of modern, then standard's back again. So I don't know. I think it's easier when your focus isn't on winning tournaments and qualifying for Pro Tours or whatever, to keep that enthusiasm up. Because I think if I was a competitive player and that was my focus, I probably would have lost a lot of enthusiasm with some of the changes that seem to make it really hard for people to qualify for events now compared to how it used to be. So, but when you just play Magic for fun, the game is so good that it's hard not to be enthusiastic all the time because it's just such a fun game to play.
How about you, Krim? You've been playing forever. How do you keep your level of enthusiasm high?
For me, I love like the competitive side of Magic, and I love the, just the whatever, let's just see if I can, play Parhelion 2 side of Magic, right? But for me, I don't know, I don't mind losing. Because I think when I started playing Magic, I lost for like 6 months straight. Because like my local game center was like at the time like Channel Fireball, and I just got destroyed day in and day out. Like, and all the best players were there at the time, and I would just keep losing. And for me, losing isn't a bad thing. Losing is a good thing. I learned from it. I learned what I did wrong, what I could do better next time. And yeah, like at the same time, when you're having fun, no matter, like it really is cheesy, but when you're having fun, it doesn't matter, right? Like I get destroyed and then I want to go play more Magic. It doesn't change a thing for me. So
yeah, same for me. I think Magic is so varied that there's always something different to try out. So I used to be like hardcore Spike, played a lot of Legacy and then Modern, and then I switched to Standard, and then I play Limited, and then I play Commander. So like when I'm bored of something, there's always some other form of Magic to play, and Magic's a pretty good game. I'm sure we all know that. So it feels pretty different, and even within things like Commander Clash, we've been playing for a long time, and every season I'm doing different things. I'll always have my jank tribal, but you'll actually see my preference for colors change over the seasons. And it's pretty cool just finding new ways of playing Magic and trying different things. So yeah, and then now with the Arena, I've been playing a lot of Limited. So now I'm like 60 cards, you guys. 40 cards is where it's at. So I don't know. We just keep evolving as Magic players.
Yeah, like blue black demons, red black demons, mono black demons.
I'm waiting for mono white demons. Yeah. You can do it. Okay, next question. Adam J. Wise. Can you explain what the site actually does and how it works? I've listened to 200 episodes of the podcast and have no idea other than it has links to Seth's videos. Huh.
Sounds like a Richard question.
I did not plant this. So on the site, you can find deck lists, you can create deck lists, you can share deck lists. We have card prices for Magic Online and also for physical cards. We have all the preview cards on the website. We have articles. So we actually have written articles if you've never read any of them on the website as well. So we have all kinds of things on the website. So if you've never checked it out, I encourage you to check it out. Adopt MTG tokens. With all the new sweet proliferate cards in War of the Spark, is there any kind of commander you'd like to see Wizards make with the mechanic?
Ooh,
any kind of commander.
Something better than the Simic Mythic, whose name I can't remember.
Rolex.
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 Yes, Rolex. I mean, maybe something. I think it would be cool to have some sort of like Helix Pinnacle mechanic, like a commander that if you can proliferate on it enough times, something cool happens or you win the game. That would be neat.
All right, I'm gonna be that guy. I want to see a legendary infect creature.
Richard, we got Skitherix. We could use another one, I guess.
I want to see like a 5C infect creature. Or, I don't know, what other counters can we... I want to see like weird counters, like, you know, like brick counters and things like that. Like not the +1/+1 or -1/-1, but just like
magnet.
strange counters. Yeah.
You can play with Tumble Magnet. Ooh, boy.
All right. Dylan Hunter, with so many new Planeswalkers in War of the Spark, there means a bunch more options for Planeswalker Tribal. Who is at the top of the list? I've got my fingers crossed on Tamio.
Oh, man. I have to go through it. So the criteria for Planeswalker Tribal has always been that the Planeswalker needs 3 non-Planeswalker deck printings. So the question is, which of the Planeswalkers, because we've done almost all of them that already had 3 versions. So I haven't actually went through the list now and saw which Planeswalkers went from 2 to 3 with this set. I'm sure there's some, like... Karn would enter the list when it wasn't on there before, so that's a possibility. Domri possibly would be on there. So I'm gonna have to go through the list and figure out. Ral, I think, is another one that actually has enough versions now, and Teferi, unfortunately,
wow,
has enough too. So
I'm sitting right here.
So I gotta go through and make a list, but there's definitely a bunch of new possibilities now that we have these new Planeswalkers.
All right, last question, also from Dylan Hunter. Are there any plans for more deconstructed videos from Fletcher? I really enjoyed those and would love to see more. So currently, no. But if you would like to see them, leave a comment, and if it's popular, we can bring it back.
And I think Matt is working on some stuff. I don't think it's deconstructed, but there will be more Matt stuff, I believe, coming up here. So,
yeah. All right. Podcast is long, so we'll cut off Fishmail there for this week. If you have any questions, send them next week to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I think that brings us to the end of episode 220 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Cribb, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. You can get 10% off at spikesacademy.com with the code GOLDFISH. So, until next week, when we should have the full War of the Spark spoiler, we can talk about the whole set. This is the crew signing out.